Hello everyone. Welcome to the new session of Introduction to Agrometrology. So this is the third part of this particular chapter, and in this chapter we are going to study about the precipitation phenomena. Okay. So precipitation is the form of a water in the atmosphere that falls to the earth. So there is a cloud, and from the clouds the water comes down. The water comes down in the form of rainfall, in the form of hail, in the form of sleet, in the form of fog, mist, snowfall, okay, etc. So this is a phenomena of precipitation. Precipitation, right? Okay, so at precipitation is a form of water in the atmosphere that falls to the earth. So all these are the different forms of the water that falls to the earth surface, and it is formed as a result of rapid condensation of the atmosphere of the moisture. Rapid condensation of the moisture. So we need to understand this particular phenomena, condensation. Okay, so this falls after cloud has been formed in the sky. So when does this precipitation phenomena takes place? It takes place after the formation of clouds, right? That forms of precipitation includes rainfall, snow, fog, mist, hail, sleet and drizzle. Okay. So, Indian continent receive its annual rainfall by a particular phenomena known as monsoon. So, rainfall, we are having a particular season also, that is called as a monsoon season. Okay, and in this we receive a maximum rainfall, right? So Indian continent receive maximum rainfall in this particular season. So it consists of a series of cyclones that arise in the Indian Ocean, right? Okay, so here we are going to study about a phenomena which is called as condensation. Condensation. So condensation is the process of change of a state from the gaseous to liquid or a solid state. So gases are there. Gases are there in the form of water, vapor. This is also water in the form of gas that is there. It changes to liquid. It changes to liquid or sometimes solid state too. And this occurs due to the condensation phenomena. Condensation. So condensation of water vapor in air itself can only take place if the air temperature is reduced to below dew point. Very important. So condensation takes place below the dew point. It occurs in the atmosphere also, right? It takes place if the air temperature is reduced to below the dew point. So as a dew point of any mass of air is its saturation point. So this particular point, dew point, is the saturation point when its relative humidity is 100%. So at the saturation point or at the dew point, the relative humidity is the 100%, and a little more cooling will bring to the point at the level where condensation takes place. So after that, if there is more cooling, then the condensation phenomena takes place, right? Condensation therefore depends upon the two things, the amount of cooling and the relative humidity of the air. So when the relative humidity is 100 degrees centigrade and the cooling is below the dew point, okay, then condensation phenomena takes place. So you have to remember the amount of cooling and the relative humidity of the air. So the condensation occur under the varying condition which in some way or the other are associated with the change in any of these variables like air volume. So condensation is varying. Okay, it is not in the same way everywhere. So it varies due to some changes in air volume, temperature, pressure and humidity. So these are the variables on which the condensation phenomena depends upon. Okay. Condensation takes place when the temperature of the air is reduced below its volume and remain constant, and the air is cooled below the dew point. This is very important. The cooling of the air is below the dew point. If the volume of air is increased without addition of heat. So this also happens when the volume of air is continuously increasing but no heat, no addition of heat, then also the condensation phenomena takes place. So when the joint change of the temperature and the volume, joint change of the temperature and volume reduces the moisture holding capacity of the air. So at one time volume is also increasing, and but the change in temperature is at the low level due to the at the dew point only, right? So moisture holding capacity of the air below it existing moisture content. So how does it happen? By the evaporation adding moisture to the air. So lot of evaporation takes place. Okay, so the most common circumstances favorable for the condensation are those producing a drop in air temperature. So when the droplets condense, the steam changes to water droplets, and when this water droplets solidify, it changes to ice, right? So process of condensation. Condensation is caused by the loss of heat. Latent heat of condensation opposite to the latent heat of vaporization. So when there is a loss of heat, condensation takes place. When moisture air is cooled. So how is cooled? By the loss of heat. It may reaches to the level when its capacity to hold water vapor ceases. That means that it reaches to the saturation level. Okay, so saturation point is 100% relative humidity. 100% relative humidity and dew point reaches. So it lowers the temperature and it reaches to the dew point. So that is called as the condensation process. Excess of water condenses into liquid form. It is, if it directly condenses to form a solid form, then it is known as sublimation. Okay, then it is called as sublimation. If the air condensation results from cooling, in free air condensation results from cooling around very small particle termed as hygroscopic condensation nuclei. Okay, so in free air also condensation phenomena takes place. Okay, by cooling, okay, by lowering the temperature, by cooling around very small particles. So some particles are there, those particles are called as hygroscopic condensation nuclei. Okay, hygroscopic condensation nuclei. So this occur in free air. So what are those hygroscopic condensation nuclei? That can be particles of dust, smoke, pollen grain and salt from the ocean are particularly good nuclei because they absorb water. And when it cools, so cools means lowering of the temperature, condensation phenomena takes place and absorb water and condensation phenomena takes place. So that is why they are called as hygroscopic condensation nuclei. Condensation takes place when the temperature of the air is reduced to the dew point when its volume remaining constant. Okay, temperature is continuously lowering down but the volume is not changing. That is called as adiabatic condition or adiabatically. When both the volume and temperature are reduced, okay, when both the volume is also changing or reducing and the temperature is also reducing, then also the condensation phenomena takes place. When moisture is added to the air through evaporation, so when there is a moisture due to the evaporation phenomena, what happened? Evaporation means droplets of water or the water vapor, it rises up because they are lighter, they are heated, and when they reaches up, they become cool. And so when moisture is added to the air by the process of evaporation, it rises up, and in high air there is a cooling. At the lower surface it is a heated, but at the higher air surface there is a cooling. So what happened? Condensation takes place at that particular surface. After the condensation of water vapor, the moisture in the atmosphere take one of the following forms. So moisture in the atmosphere changes in the form of dew, frost, fog and clouds. Okay, so condensation take place when the dew point is lower than the freezing point. Okay, condensation take place when the dew point is lower than the freezing point as well as higher than the freezing point. At both this point, the condensation phenomena takes place. Different forms of condensation. Now we have understood the form of condensation, how the condensation phenomena takes place. Now what will be the effect after the condensation phenomena takes place? So dew, white frost, fog and mist come in the first category, whereas the clouds are in the second category. So let us understand one by one different forms of the condensation. Dew. When the moisture is deposited in the form of water droplets on the cooler surface of the solid objects rather than the nuclei in air above the surface. So the water droplets are not uniting with the nuclei which is present in the air, that is in the form of dust particle, okay, pollen grain, okay, they are not joining with those nuclei particle. Instead they get cooler at the surface of solid objects, okay, like stones, grass blades, plant leaves, and that is called as dew. So here you can see dew. So at the surface of the leaf, the moisture get cooled because of the condensation phenomena and they form of water droplets. They form the water droplets and rest at the surface of the leaves here in this particular example. So that is called as dew. The ideal condition for its formation are clear sky, when the sky is very clear, calm air, high relative humidity, and this particular clear sky, calm air, but the relative humidity is high, and cooling phenomena takes place for the longer time or longer nights. So dew forms can be there is a formation of dew. For the formation of dew, it is necessary that dew point is above the freezing point, right? Next, the frost. Frost form on the cold surface. Again, this phenomena also take place at the cold surface when the condensation take place below the freezing point and the dew point is at or below the freezing point, right? So the ideal condensation for the formation of the frost are the same as that for the formation of dew, but there is slight difference, okay, except that the air temperature must be at or below the freezing point. There only the condensation phenomena takes place and the moisture, the water vapor changes to the water droplets because the condensation is taking place at the surface of stone, okay, surface of, we can see the dew at the surface of some metal objects also, at the leaf surface also, but here The water droplets are freezing. The water droplets are freezing at the surface because the dew point is at or below the freezing point in the case of frost formation, right? So we can see this frost crystals of we can say ice at the surface of the leaves. There it is, in the case of dew, it is not reaching below the freezing point. So the water droplets are resting at the surface of the stone or the leaves. But here, the dew point is at or below the freezing point. Either it is at freezing point or below the freezing point. So the water droplets are changing to the crystals of ice. So that is called as frost. Fog. So in winter season, we see fog every morning. Okay. So when the temperature of an air mass, now here is not a water vapor, whereas it is air mass containing large quantity of water vapor. So the air mass means it is having the air also along with the large quantity of water vapor falls off sudden. Condensation takes place within itself on the fine dust particles, right? So in fog, visibility is less than 1 kilometer. So overall condensation is taking place around the dust particle which is present in the air, okay, along with the large quantity of water vapor. So there is the formation of fog. And the visibility is less than very less, that is less than 1 kilometer. Mist. The difference between the mist and fog is that mist contains more moisture than fog. It is almost the same, but here the moisture is more as compared to the fog. So in mist, each nuclei contain a thicker layer of moisture. So fog are drier than the mist and they are prevalent where the warm currents of air come in contact with the cold currents. In mist, visibility is more than 1 kilometer, but it is less than 2 kilometer. So visibility is more in the case of mist, but it is less than 2 kilometer. Rainfall, very important form of the precipitation. Rainfall. So rain is a water droplets that have a condensed from the atmospheric water vapor and then fall under the gravity. So here the condensation is up to the level that all the water vapor joins together to form water droplets. These water vapor condensation takes place and these water vapor forms water droplets. Okay, so it provides water for the hydroelectric power plant, crop irrigation, and the suitable condition for many types of ecosystem. So this rain is very important for our ecosystem, for humankind, for our crop irrigation, right? So this rain is very important because it is also a part of the water cycle, right? So necessary condition for the rainfall formations are as follows. There should be a sufficient amount of evaporation from the water body. So we are having lots of water bodies, lakes, rivers, seas and oceans. Sea and oceans, right? So evaporation takes place when sunlight reaches to the earth's surface. Okay, so these water present in the lakes, rivers, sea and ocean evaporates as they get heated. Okay, so there should be wind to carry water vapor from one place to another. So wind blow and these water vapor reaches to the above surface of the earth. in the atmosphere. So there should some way of decreasing the temperature of the moist air. So now these moist air, okay, it's laden with the moisture. The temperature of these moist air should be lower down. So what happened? Rainfall occur when the cloud droplets changes to the raindrop, and this occur due to which phenomena? That is condensation. Again, condensation. So we can see the condensation phenomena take place due to the formation of dew, to the formation of frost, okay, mist, and for the fog even. For the rainfall also, there is a condensation process. Types of rainfall. So rainfall is classified as the conventional rainfall, orographic rainfall, convergence rainfall based on the mode of occurrence. So there are three different types of rainfall. The first one is convectional rainfall. Convectional rainfall. The different surface areas are heated differently. A parcel of air near the ground may be warmed by the conduction more than the air around it. So as the warm air is less dense, it rises up the strata of the atmosphere. So here we can see in this figure, heated surface. The surface get heated and evaporation takes place. Evaporation takes place. So when the temperature of the warm humid air decreases in the higher region below the dew point, condensation takes place and clouds are formed. So clouds are formed here due to the condensation phenomena. Condensation phenomena. So these clouds cause thunder and heavy rainfall. Thunder and heavy rainfall. This type of rainfall is called as convectional rainfall. It is common in equatorial region and the inner parts of its continent. So this region of the earth's surface get heated. The evaporation takes place at that surface only. Clouds are formed, and at that particular point only the precipitation in the form of rainfall takes place. So that is called as convectional rainfall. Next, orographic rainfall. It occurs when the warm air rises and cools because of the topographic barrier. So here we can see the Arabian Sea, moist air rising. Okay, it is rises here. Now this is called as the windward side, and the opposite to, now this is the Western Ghats, which is a barrier. And this particular part of this barrier of the Western Ghats is called as the leeward side. Okay, leeward side. So as the warm air rises, it cools and the temperature fall below the dew point, forming the clouds. So here the clouds formation take place due to the condensation phenomena. Now these clouds cause widespread rain on the mountain range windward slope. So at this particular slope region, because of this topographic barrier, the cloud burst out at this particular point, which is towards the windward side only. So towards the windward side there is a rainfall, but there is a dry region towards the leeward side. Okay, so that is the orographic rainfall. Okay, so the third type of rainfall is the frontal or the cyclonic rainfall. A front is formed when the two opposing air masses, such as a cloud polar air mass and a warm westerly air mass, converge along a line. Okay, the warm wind is lifted upward along this front where the colder air settles. So here you can see warm moist air rises over the colder air, and cold dense air sink below the warm air. So here the colder air is rising up and the warmer air below is coming downward to the warm moist air. So warm air is lifted along the cyclonic front in an inclined plane rather than vertically. So inclination, we can see here the rising of the warm moist air is in a inclined fashion. It is not like the convectional type of rainfall that is rising upward at that particular point only. No, it is rising in a, we can say, inclined plane. So the frontal rainfall is the most common in the mid latitude where the warm westerlies meet cold polar easterlies. Okay, so this is very common in the mid latitudes, and the convectional type of rainfall is very common at the equatorial region, and towards the mountainous region we find the orographic type of rainfall, right? So this is all about we can say the precipitation part of the agrometrology. We will meet with one more interesting session. Okay, thank you very much.